tech support in the form of a Dominic. Yes, so we've got some great things going on for you this evening, and thank you for joining us. We will just have a quick round of introductions. Two of us you are hopefully a little more familiar with, but we're joined by the lovely Jane. So you want to say a little bit about yourself, Jane?
My name is Jane, also known as Female Gamer. That was a tag I made when I was 13, so get over it already.
It's not a socio-political statement, it's just the mind of a 13-year-old.
Exactly, and I stuck with it, and now it's a meta joke, so that's it.
Fab. Love it. What about you, Meg?
I'm Meg. This is my second week here. So, second week for the show. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I'm super excited for Jane to be here. I've seen her all the time in the Talking Boxes chats. So, I'm excited to get to know her better.
Yay.
Yeah, and I'm Nessa. I also hang out in the Talking Boxes chat. So we're all a bit of sort of old hands around those kinds of things. You'll also find me on Twitter. We will do a quick round of social media, I think, at the end. So hang on for that. That'll be where you can sort of find us probably a bit more frequently than this, which is obviously every couple of weeks. This evening we've got some fun topics for you. So we were just having a really good chat around this. This has been a very topical recently. There's been some jokes. There's been some jokes between myself and the Talking Boxes community around filters, photographic filters, Snapchat, things like that. So whilst we obviously don't use them in this stream, we're obviously aware that a lot of streamers do use them. A lot of people use them on their Instagrams, on their social media, just everyday use, to friends and things, just like second nature. And we were just going to have a bit of a discussion about what we think about that, about the pros and the cons. Is it that this is a great thing? I mean, I have a 4-year-old who thinks some of them are absolutely hilarious. When we're dressed up as punk rockers and things like that, stuff that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. But, there's also an insidious side where is it the pressure to always look perfect and things out there. So who wants to maybe chime in on this? I know, Jane, you had literally a discussion today. Oh, you're pointing at Meg. Oh.
Okay, I can do it.
Then.
Well, I was going to say, so obviously I think there's the fun ones, and that's like to me, that's one category. They're really, you look like a punk rocker or a cat or a bunny, whatever it is. My kids love them. I think it's great. The ones that are just like make us look maybe younger, better looking, those are the ones I find a little bit questionable. And I believe, because I don't use really heavy filters usually if I post a photo. I try to use good lighting, but I try not either have no filter or really like hardly anything. And everyone constantly thinks I'm older than I am. So I'm 36. People are always saying I look like I'm in my 40s on Twitter, and which is, there's nothing wrong with your 40s, but nobody wants to be aged longer than they are.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because I look like a real 36-year-old woman. Like, I think I like not smoothing my face. I'm not like thinning it out. I look like, I think, appropriate for my age. And because of that, because I think like men and even women are so used to seeing like a falsified version of what someone my age looks like. It's like they've lost their grasp on like, what a real human being at this age looks like. So I think it's having like a real effect on people and their outlook.
Well, I think even without that, actually, Meg, there was the on-running joke when lockdown started that for the first time, given that women can't go for their manicures and pedicures and to see their beauticians and their hairdressers and all the rest of it, that men for the first time, husbands will actually find out what their wives really look like. And I just found that really either a sad indictment or like sort of like a bit of a are there people out there where it's like I do know somebody, or actually I probably don't, not that close to them anymore, but who used to get up like the 20 minutes before their partner to put the makeup on and things like that. but I kind of feel like that's almost the type of culture we're promoting, you know, when we're using these filters and stuff. Like, we're raising an expectation that we can't necessarily then live up to, maybe. I mean, what's your thought, Jane? Sorry, Meg, did you want to go?
I definitely think that I definitely think that, like, filters, like, it's part of what people put out to the world. And I have large concerns with couples that have no idea what their other half looks like without a filter or makeup, because that's got other problems. But, like, essentially, like, you know, they're only putting out what they think looks good, and at the moment it is these Snapchat filters that smooth everything, make you look younger. And the problem is that younger people don't realize that it is a false look on the world as well. Like, so they literally, all the filters literally just smooth your skin. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, add bunny ears but also smooth your skin, add, like, I don't know, flowers but also smooth your skin. Like, it's just kind of hilarious and ludicrous.
You have lost your nose, it has gone too far.
Yeah, when you turn into Voldemort, I think it's a bit of a problem.
I mean, yeah, it is funny though. I mean, I have to say I'm guilty of some of this, like using some of the filters, and I have to say, so I like a couple of times I posted something on my Facebook or something, and everyone's like, "Is that your real hair?" And I'm like, I've suddenly grown an afro, have I? Or like, well, not quite. There was one though. It was like an '80s perm thing. It wasn't quite like, it wasn't quite that bad. But it was just hilariously funny. It was like so obviously not real, and it just, some of the questions that you get though, when everyone's like, it almost kind of, they have to kind of look twice, or you have to kind of double check and guess, and but there are some really funny ones. I mean, I suppose where I struggle is that we live in a sort of society at the moment that's so body positive. Like, there's a lot of body shaming that does go on, but there's also the reverse, where we sort of seem to have that movement which is really around body positivity. And I kind of feel that some of this flies almost in the face of that, to say you should be body positive, but you should also be looking like this version
of a
of
certain type of body. Be body positive as long as you look good, you know. And then if you aren't acceptable, I mean, I will say, like, we talked about this a little bit on the pre-show, but I get a lot of positive feedback, like my boyfriend and things like that. Like, he wants to be able to see my freckles in pictures. You know, he doesn't want it to look like a mannequin. So I'll say, like, I think that there's like two groups of people. Like, I think we're kind of maybe rounding the corner on it, you know, where we became a little bit obsessed with it, and now we're kind of hopefully dialing back, being like, okay, maybe like a little bit of smoothing is cool, but like we said, no Voldemort. So
Yeah, and I definitely also get what Jess is saying in the chat, is that it's the same as makeup, and yeah, it's probably a cheaper and easier way to do makeup, and it's how people want to put out how they want to look in certain ways. And like the same, yeah, if you have other things that you're attempting to cover up, like I said, I have certain things on my face that I cover up with makeup because otherwise I don't look good. But then, is that also that I actually don't look good, or is it because, you know, is it just that that's what society says that we should look like, pretty and smooth?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a big piece around that, is we all have our insecurities, and I suppose we're always sort of told that we should be embracing those insecurities and loving ourselves for all of our flaws and all the rest of it, and yet we still feel that pressure, and I think in particular as women, of you know, to some degree, you know, where makeup and things is generally the norm. To cover up those imperfections, and yeah, sort of, I have mixed feelings. I've never worn a lot of makeup, but you know, I've come across pros and cons to that in my day-to-day life,
Yeah.
You know, and it's I still think sort of it's a lead on almost from that. It's sort of it's implying as well, I don't know, as people we should be, like as I said, aiming for that smoothness or that lack of imperfection.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I always find it funny though, if you ever try the woman filter, what it thinks I look like or should look like as a woman, I find hilariously funny on
Hey,
Snapchat.
I am the
Makes me
ugliest
look like it's
man.
a woman.
Like so bad. Like
Likewise.
me as a man is like Mother Nature made the right choice when she made me a woman because I look like the worst like piece of trailer trash in the world. Like when the filter where it makes me a man, it's bad.
See, for the woman one, it makes me look tanned for some reason. Like it makes me darker skinned, which I don't understand. Whether or not it's just the lighting in here. And for the man, it just makes my jaw larger, and I do look like my cousin. Like it's really disturbing the fact that I look exactly like my cousin, and yeah, I don't like that.
I honestly, I look like Andre Agassi's uglier brother. Like in that. And my sister though, if you know, oh god, the Lady Gaga used to date Taylor Kinney, is it or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. My
Taylor
god,
Kinney.
my sister looks like him. I'm like, hang on a minute. Like what?
Like I've never seen your sister, but like I feel like sometimes less cute women made super hot men and like vice versa, like really ugly men made super hot women. Like it's like kind of like how Demi Moore and Bruce Willis are both independently good looking, but then they had children and it was like a little bit too much, like it didn't it didn't go
Ooh,
together the
yeah.
best way. Like too
Ow.
many like strong features like in the pot did not come out okay.
Oh dear. Yeah, but that's what Snapchat's for, maybe. No, we're not shaming here.
No.
Somebody else.
And I just think
Strong
you know,
features. They're strong features. That's it. I didn't say
Strong
they're ugly. Just
features.
strong features.
but then you know, there's just the fun ones, like the really disturbing one that makes you look like a hand. Like that's very weird, and I don't like that one. It looks weird.
Hot
Oh,
dog.
honestly,
Oh, the hot dog one. Oh no.
my friend, honestly, the first time I just discovered Snapchat courtesy of Dom, and I took it to my friend's house, and Alex was my 4-year-old was playing with it, and of course their boys wanted in, and there just had to be that time, wasn't there? There was one. It was like it dressed you. It basically made you a granny, and she was slapping her ass. You got all these like 4, 5, 6-year-olds
Ow.
wanting to play with this one. And I was like, I'm so sorry. It's like, oh dear. So there are some good, hilarious moments, especially if you want to get humiliated in front of your friends as well. So, you know, from that perspective, it's quite good for a laugh. Oh, Jessica says she remembers that one. It was iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty iconic. Just maybe not for a group of children when you're going around your mate's house and they're like, what's that they're playing with? And you're like, you don't really want to know. But yeah. So, I mean, I suppose the big thing that we're saying is that, you know, they have their place, but we need to kind of not get bogged down into believing that their truth, or sort of, we have to always remind ourselves maybe that this is not, and I think it's across all of it, right? Reality and social media and things, you know, you only get the pictures, the perfect pictures or the great selfies, filter or no filter, that people put up, and obviously that's a very small part of that person's life, and you know, that more perfect part, but it's easy to kind of think that that's how they look all the time, and of course that's not necessarily the case. So any last things to kind of add on that sort of topic, Meg, Jane?
I would agree. I would just say like in real life, sometimes I sometimes I wear no makeup and I go out like that and I'm totally comfortable. Sometimes I wear the full beat and I'm totally good with that. So I think that like we just need to be the same way with filters. Like they're fun, we should enjoy them, but no one should be shamed for continuing to look like a human being with pores on their face. So
No, absolutely. So go on, Jane.
Yeah, it's not for me, but same, like I almost all the time don't have makeup on. I wear it exceedingly rarely. It's just not necessarily, the filters aren't really my thing. I don't know if it's just for younger people, maybe. I don't know, but it's hilarious. Really, that
Honestly,
I'm
give
doing
you a
that.
week, Jane. Your Twitter profile's going to have bunny ears. Once
I've never
you've gone
posted
down that
anything on
rabbit hole.
No, but there is one thing that I thought was hilarious, that a girl from work, she had one of her bunny ear photos as her LinkedIn profile picture. Like,
Oh,
yeah, don't
that's a
do
whole
that.
No, don't
discussion.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do that.
Your LinkedIn, Jessica, has a pigeon. Or is that your Twitter?
I think
Twitter,
her
Twitter, yeah, Twitter's okay. I was thinking LinkedIn is a pigeon. Very good.
But imagine her Twitter.
I even got changed. I got told to change my WhatsApp one the other week actually because I was meant to have a call with somebody about a job, like a WhatsApp conversation, and I was told it probably wasn't professional enough. So I now have a more professional WhatsApp picture. But yeah, it's just amazing how these things all kind of creep in, and suddenly you're like, hang on, this is meant to be fun, and suddenly it's like, no, this is the persona that you actually project to the outside world, which is why these things are so popular, right? Because it's like you don't have to bother with the makeup or whatever, and you can just put that on LinkedIn, and it makes you look good. So everything at the moment has a pigeon. Oh, when Dom and I first started going out, honestly, we found that he has not used it actually in a while. There's this great WhatsApp emote, and it's the stony faced pigeon, and it was like, you know, when your joke kind of falls flat and what you get sent back is a stony faced pigeon. It's literally like, I can't do a pigeon, but it's the funniest emote. You got to find
Do an impression of a pigeon.
No, that's that. I don't know. It's not working. I'm going to lose us viewers. So let's not do that. So moving on then. There has been a lot of this going around at the moment with everything that's kind of going on, and all of the sort of socio side and the way that we sort of move forwards. And as we move forwards and things like sexism get addressed head on when people kind of see it, you know, they're getting a lot better at calling it out. What has come along with that, and we're going to talk about this, is the phenomenon known as white knighting. If anyone's not familiar with that, it's kind of like a version of mansplaining, but it's not necessarily men all the time, but it's where someone perceives a prejudice and they take it upon themselves to defend that person from that perceived prejudice, where basically taking on that responsibility from that individual themselves when that individual hasn't necessarily said that they're okay with that, and that perhaps they feel that they probably would have done a better job of defending themselves, for example. So it's stepping in perhaps where it's not necessarily warranted to defend somebody from a perceived prejudice or slight. And I think most of us here may have had some experience with this. I think, so I'm going to go to you again, Meg, because I know that when we initially talked about this, you had come across
Like
some of
the
this.
problem child.
You come across some of this on your
She's come
Twitter.
across it more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I experience this a lot on Twitter, because I'm gonna post a selfie. If I ever show my face, I get a wide range of comments from people that I feel the majority of them are trying to be complimentary. It's maybe not always done the best way. And then there'll be another group of men comes in and feels the need to step in on my behalf. These men who maybe crossed a line unknowingly or maybe knowingly. But maybe I'm just like a pushover, but I feel like most of them, like, their heart is in the right place. And whenever I've asked them to back down, like, hey, like, it's okay, I've got this, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, like, I think that the internet has just become this crazy place.
Oh, we lost your audio there for a second.
Audio.
You're back again. Can you just repeat that last sentence?
I was going to say, like, the internet has become like a scary place. And so I think a lot of men recognize that and feel a responsibility towards stepping up and helping women when we don't necessarily always need it. So I would say that, for me, it doesn't really bother bother me. Like those guys, it's just genuinely like trying to be like a stand-up type of person, and make sure that other guys are not like pressuring me or saying things to make me feel uncomfortable. So I'm on the weekend of this one. So
Yeah, I think Amy's got it there. It sort of presumes helplessness, and I think it is well intentioned, but it is that piece where it's kind of like, obviously I'm needed to do this because the person can't necessarily do it themselves, and there's a pretty big assumption in there, which is usually based in their own, from my perspective, potentially their own kind of insecurities and prejudices, that they're aware perhaps that they haven't in the past been as, you know, well, as anti-prejudice or whatever, and now it's kind of, they feel like they're stepping up to the plate and not, it's like almost a step too far. And I don't quite know. So go on.
I was gonna say Amy's comment is sometimes things bother me, but intervention has a cost, and I agree with that. Like, every time I get a comment, I do kind of sit there and I'm like, is it worth it? Is it worth me saying something back to them? And so honestly, sometimes it is helpful. Like, I have 10,000 followers. If I post a selfie, I probably get about like 2,000 likes and like 500 comments. I can't post all those comments and all those people. So sometimes it is helpful for me to have somebody, if someone says something gross, be like, what the hell, buddy? You know, like as long, and I don't feel like that's overstepping for me, you know, as long as they're not speaking on my behalf and saying things on like as if they're me. Like I think a lot of guys, like I have one friend who does this a lot and he gets called a white knight a lot. And so I guess that's why I'm a little bit lenient about it, because he hates it when people retweet. Like he'll have a selfie thread and I'll post my selfie on his thread, and then men will come over and make really gross comments on me on his selfie thread. So then he'll retweet my selfie and say something gross, and then he gets really upset about it because he feels like, to me, he looks like a sister, and I feel like he is like feeling personally offended by what's being said to me.
So, yeah, I wouldn't say that's white knighting. I'd say that's, you know, he has a standard for what he wants his threads to look like, and it, you know, he's just drawing those boundaries in the right kinds of ways and saying that's not tolerated and my kind of. Sorry, go on.
The guys always come back and call him a white knight, though. Every time he stands up for me, they're like, "Oh, here you are, white knighting," like when it's not really that. So I think there's kind of like a blurred thing on the internet going on with it. What's true white knighting versus what's just being like a stand-up human.
Yeah, and I think
but then it's also I was going to say it's kind of context, and they don't necessarily know all of what's going on there, I suppose. So like potentially from their perspective, it does kind of look like white knighting. So it isn't necessarily that he is, but other people are like, yeah, he's white knighting because that's what he appears to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is thrown almost as a slur though as well, like by the kind of toxic side of things, where it's kind of like anyone who's maybe more, and this includes men, you know, men can be feminists, maybe who are a bit more feminist, as kind of like a, you know, almost like a bad thing. And as you say, from what we said right at the beginning, a lot of it is well-intentioned, albeit misplaced to some extent, but that's a question of like the person that it's being done to drawing their boundaries and having that communication and saying, actually, I'm going to step in here because I don't need you to necessarily fight that battle. I either chose not to, or I'm perfectly capable of doing it myself, kind of thing. But I think that, there is a piece though, like I came across the other day, which was kind of like white knighting on steroids, almost like kind of, and it was, no, hopefully no one's going to get offended in chat. Basically it was an erotic piece of artwork that I came across, and it totally depicted an entirely fantasy type scene, which was based around the idea that basically one of the people was being blackmailed into doing something by someone else, basically. And it was very interesting to read some of the dialogue underneath this, which was like the first comment was really like, in this kind of day and age, do we really think we should be glamorizing and promoting this kind of this kind of depiction. And obviously the artist came back and he's like, it's artwork and it's fantasy and it's not real. If you can't tell the difference, you kind of got an issue. And I was kind of like, that's the piece where I kind of think almost we kind of, it's like, let somebody who actually I don't know, it was just weird. I was like, okay, if you were maybe similar to the person who was being blackmailed in this particular artwork, maybe you could say, well, actually, I feel uncomfortable by that, and maybe you kind of have a right to do that. But this was kind of someone kind of trying to almost shut it down because they felt that it was offensive to, well, effectively women, right? And that piece kind of just fascinated me, and I was like, not sure how, like, there's so many levels to this.
Yeah, but like the comment section on adult sites is always very interesting. Like, yeah, I don't know how much we should really read into the comments because they'll probably be the complete opposite, and yeah, really good and really bad there, definitely.
Well, no, I mean, because I get it. He was trying to be really respectful of, of women, and in some ways, I think it was very well intentioned. I think the pieces where it starts to shut down, like freedom of expression or someone's ability to kind of just fantasize, or without it hurting anybody. It's not, in exactly example, it's different when it's very personal. Like in Meg's experience, it's obviously very much directed to her as an individual. This was entirely non-personal. There was no, it's nobody involved that anybody knew. It's not real, and it's still subject to that kind of like white knighting. Like, I feel that I need to go in to defend on the honor of all women in this. We shouldn't be glamorizing. And that's where I kind of feel there's sort of the line where it's like, okay, it's good to stand up, and then there's like, okay, maybe you need to rein it back a bit. I don't know, Jane, have you ever sort of I think you did have some experience when we were talking about it.
I only think I've ever really had experience like seeing other people in streams, and then also thinking about it more, I thought that I've actually experienced it a lot in real life, because especially like guys, like they'll jump in, like you're being insulted in some sort of way, and then a guy will just like jump in and like defend you, and I'm like, what's going on? A lot of the times after the other person has vanished, they start trying to chat you up, white knight, and that's the only experience I've ever really had like in person, is they are trying to white knight to try and lead it into something else. Like, what other reason do men have to white knight other than to go, look how amazing I am, I have all your best interests
brownie points,
and it's like, I'm the nice guy, and it's like, you know what I mean? And they're like the, I'm gonna be, if it, they're like the neckbeard guys that are stereotypically exceedingly nerdy, like jump in, it's like, nice guys finish last, and like they come and defend you, and it's like, no. And then they're like, nice guys always finish last, I'm so nice. And it's like, well, no, you weren't being nice to be genuine. You were jumping in to defend me so that then you could try and hit on me in a hopes that it would go somewhere. Like, I mean, really irritating.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I suppose it's only white knighting. I mean, to your point, Meg, your friend who comes up to bat for you is a friend, and quite often, I suppose the piece about white knighting is sometimes it's mainly strangers. Because I was just thinking, like, a lot of my girlfriends, for example, if someone says something insulting to me, suddenly you've got 5 girlfriends who will all be like, hang on a minute, you can't say that. And we don't call them white knights. I mean, I would say, that they're my girlfriends, and we kind of all do go into, we'll defend each other and protect each other. So I don't want to be unfair here, because it happens across the board, and I'm pretty sure that women are probably just as bad in certain situations or in those kinds of things. But it tends to be,
Probably.
I think the difference probably is around strangers versus when friends do it. And I don't know what we call it when friends do it. And is it unfair that we only sort of call strangers white knights when actually probably some of our friends are just as guilty sometimes of going into bat for us, and we're like, hang on a minute, I think I can throw out or set my own boundaries, or I mean, I don't know how you feel about that.
I had a friend, so I tweeted a selfie. I had a real life friend, a guy, retweet it. He just always retweets my selfies. I don't know why, but it's very innocent. He doesn't say anything gross. He just retweets it. He's like supporting me in his mind. So, and then I had my other friend see the retweet and then yell at him, and then they got in a fight back and forth. Ended up blocking each other. Then I ended up having to message them both and be like, look, like, it's totally fine if you want to retweet my selfie. I know it's innocent. And then I was like, I had to message the person and be like, look, he's not trying to be gross. He's just a nice guy. Like, but it was like, it was like two people like fighting over like nothing. Like, why are you fighting? This is so stupid.
We're both defending Meg's honor.
Like, right. They both are like thinking that they're the real friend, like so.
Does the better friend retweet, or does the better friend white knight? Like,
right.
It's getting complicated now. I don't know.
See, I definitely think that I potentially might have white knighted, like, in the past when I'm potentially protecting my friends, but then I think I've seen it more as a they are too intoxicated to realize that really somebody does need to jump in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like, is it really white knighting when I'm aware that potentially I am cock blocking in a situation, like, you know, you're a little bit tipsy, I am going to come in here and tell them to fuck off.
Yeah. I think
it's a whole different conversation. I think white knight, white cock block. I don't know what you call that.
I think it's different if the person isn't able or isn't in any sort of full mind or whatever in order to be able to set the boundaries coherently that they would usually set. I mean, I think that's fair to set, and I wouldn't necessarily call that white knighting. I think that's obviously being a responsible friend if you know that they might do something that they may regret later. But I think it comes down to that. Yeah, I think it's a big piece around whether that person is able to enforce those boundaries and to communicate the boundaries for themselves. And if they are, it's white knighting. If they're not, you know.
Yeah, but then that's essentially what white knights are saying, that, like, if they come to our defense, that they're saying that we're incapable, essentially. So they've made that decision that we are, like, the person that's in, like, doesn't have fully control. They don't know exactly what, like, we should be doing. Like, well, we're just gonna pop in and tell them exactly what it should be, really.
My takeaway is I just want to party with Jane because she's got this massive gin and tonic. Everyone is so drunk around her. And she'll be there to save you. So that's
Jane, how much more of that are you drinking?
I'm a bit of a mother figure on a night out. We'll say.
So there's some good chat. Sort of what says, I do think sometimes it's appropriate to cock block when your friend is in a position where they cannot do it themselves, but they super need it. Like if they're working in a service industry. So like, for instance, like wait staff, for example, have got to be super nice to the customers, but the customers might be assholes, for example.
You're required to be nice. Like, they're not being nice to you because they like you. Well, but yeah, like, it's like that whole thing of, waitresses, like, they're being nice to you because they want a tip and also good customer service. Doesn't necessarily mean that you can be an asshole and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose someone stepping in that sort of regard is quite helpful. And again, well, that again, though, as you say, it's they're not able to do it, I think, is the piece. So I wouldn't necessarily call that white knighting. I think that's just being a stand-up human being.
Yeah, because I've like come to the defense of like, so train staff, when they're having people shout at them because the trains are late, they're not allowed to have a go at them. Well, the customers can. You can tell them quite thoroughly, stop being pieces of shite. But generally, the staff aren't able to do that, so it could, in the same scenario, be seen as I'm being a white knight coming to the, rescue of the poor train staff that are dealing with every single train being delayed and having people shout at them. So
yeah, I mean, I think being in the service industry is incredibly difficult from that perspective, because you do they get so much abuse, or can do, when small things go wrong, and obviously it's not necessarily their fault, or they're just the middleman, the communicator in the middle of it.
And they're not able to talk back, so...
Exactly. Yeah. They've got to be polite and maintain calm and de-escalate wherever possible. I'm sorry about it, Kelsey Ann. Yeah, that sounds like an awful experience, and the fact no one else did anything. I think we do still live in that sort of bystander thing as well, which maybe we'll talk about at some point, where people are more likely to whip out a phone to record something than get involved. But that's a topic for another day, I feel.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, so I think
that could be a very good topic for another day.
There's a piece about intent, to your point, Kelsey Ann, I think as well, is white knighting on behalf of the person versus doing it to make yourself look good. And I think we sort of touched upon that, didn't we, to say, is it about scoring the brownie points, or is it that you're doing it innocently because you're actually, feeling for that other person, and the empathy piece, and you feel that it's worth saying something to pull somebody up on their behavior. And I think, that's very topical at the moment, where it's like, I'm going to touch on this, we talked about the NTAM, but for example, at the moment, it's not just enough to be racist. It's like we've now got to be, well, we don't now have to be, or we should be anti-racist. We should be calling people up on that behavior. In that respect, we may all end up being white knights that in certain situations where we just have to say out and out that that's just not acceptable behavior. And I wouldn't say that was white knighting. I would say that that's being a decent human being and pulling up behavior where it's seen that we, won't tolerate. And that's the same maybe across the board. And maybe this white knighting phenomenon will then go away, because that becomes an expectation that no matter what, you will go into bat for that person. And that doesn't necessarily undermine that person's ability to bat for themselves either. That would be a nice place to go, I think.
Yeah.
So, any last words, Jane, Meg, on white knighting? No? So I just killed it there.
That sums it up. So.
We all should be aiming to be white knights, and for that to be the new norm, but for that not to undermine the person whose ability to defend themselves. Yay!
Yes.
Fab. So yes, so that's our sort of that's our WA discuss section. I think we've had a couple of really good topics there, and we've uncovered a possible topic for another time, which is fabulous. Our next section, we don't like bullies. Yes, I think that's pretty much the sum of it. So moving on, we have our Dear WA help section. So this is where we have trawled through some of the best that Reddit has to offer. Although we would say again that if anyone ever wants to submit a question for Dear WA and for us to get sort of hear our advice on it, you can do that via the Redding, and you can do that either if you're brave, you can do it anonymously, but if you're feeling a little more shy, you can do it anonymously. And I think Dom hopefully will at some point say where the Redding address, Reddit, what the Reddit is. I think it's literally just if you search Talking Boxes Network, you'll find it. But Dom, I'm sure, will post the link. Yeah, thanks, Dom. Reading, yes. But for this week, we have some interesting ones for you. This is where I get my high-tech pad out. So our first one, I'm 22F. and I have no friends. I just graduated from university and I'm feeling really bummed. All I see on social media are people celebrating their friends who are graduating, and I feel kind of poopy about it. During my time in college, I really struggled to make friends. I was in colour guard, but I didn't get close to anyone, so whenever I met my friends, it was awesome. We hit it off. Junior senior year is whenever I became friends with a group of 4 people. We hung out individually and as a group and would always have a good time. I was genuinely happy because I cared about these people and I thought they cared about me too. As soon as we all had to go our separate ways due to COVID, we all stopped talking. I've tried reaching out to everyone individually, messaging the group, sending memes, but been ghosted by everyone. No one has reached out to me in 4 months. I feel like a big dummy not for feeling hurt over this. Now I feel like I was just used for them to gain social media traction. We're digital art majors, so it's super cool when your friends promo you and you promo them. My friendships from high school couldn't handle the heat of growing up and just dissolved over time. No beef, just different directions. I'm feeling really blue about this today. Any advice? Who'd like to kick off on this one? I'm going to go to you, Jane, because Meg's been... Meg doesn't... Oh, yeah, no, she's not putting her hand up. She's pointing upwards, yeah. Go on.
So I personally do have issues with retaining friendships, and I do tend to find out that they were somewhat hollow, and that I thought that they were something more than they were personally. Like, I had a friend who changed, like, she was a friend from work and we were best buds, and then, you know, like, going to lunch to every single day lunch and hanging out after work, and we were like besties. And then she then got a new job, and then she essentially I tried really hard to keep us talking, and then just one day last June she just stopped replying. And just, so, like, I get it, like, I still don't know why she stopped communicating with me, and I understand, like, this person's issue with the not knowing, and I genuinely, it's very hard to deal with when you think that you put so much into something and you thought that you were really close to someone, for them to just turn around and just vanish. But yeah, so I completely feel kind of where she's coming from. And like I say, I also have, like, problems with keeping and retaining friends, like, because I also find it hard to communicate with more than, like, one person. Like, trying to make arrangements with more than one person at a time is very hard for me. um, so I understand where she's coming from. I just think she's got to cut them loose and find new friends, really.
Meg, any thoughts?
I think that probably when I hear these stories, I think the reasons are twofold. I think on the one hand, people today just kind of create like more shallow relationships. I think with like social media, we have like a whole lot of friends that maybe aren't like the closest, most intimate friendships, and it's difficult to really take your friendship to the next level. So, and I think like in Jane's experience, in her mind, the friendship was there, but obviously the other person was not invested the same way. And I think that that's fairly common today. I think that's something that pretty much everyone struggles with. Um, Firstly, we talked about this in prep. I
Yeah.
do feel like I have like I would say this is more common with men than women, but there are a lot of men that I meet like through Twitter who constantly are tweeting that like nobody ever reaches out to me first. I guess it doesn't matter. Like these like vague tweeting, um, and pity party situations about that people don't care about them, blah blah blah. And I will say with these men, my experience with them is that like they're really selfish conversationalists. Like they tend to message me and just talk about themselves. They never ask me about anything about myself. There's no follow up about anything that maybe I've talked about. And to me, it's honestly just a chore to talk to them. Like I don't want them to message me. I don't want to have to um, even interact with them. But they're the first people to complain about other people being shitty friends. So I think on the one hand, we have like the Janes that are just maybe meeting people that are not invested. They're not really like friendships that we really need today. On the other hand, I think that there's probably some people who and you can't tell from this brief Reddit post which one this person is, which category this person falls into. But I think there are a lot of people who are looking for a friendship simply to provide something to themselves and don't ever look at it like, well, what can I help this person with, or how can I be a good friend to them? I think that that's how you make really good friendships, is you try to see what that person needs and really try and help them with it and be there for them and maybe fill the gaps and things that they're missing in their life. At least that's what I do with like my best friend. Like, she's in the chat right now. I think it's like we know each other better than we know ourselves in a lot of ways. And she's really helpful to me when I'm going through things. And I think that that's really hard to achieve. So I think it's like I said, it's twofold. It can go either way. And on one hand, people suck. On the other hand, you might suck. I don't know.
It's very. I mean, the other thing that I picked up on this is obviously is the COVID piece, and I think she doesn't know the circumstances, and I think COVID has been a strain for a lot of people, and a lot of people have kind of shut down, and they are focusing only on their immediate kind of circle, and they're not really able, or in terms of mental health wise, they're not necessarily in a sort of capacity to want or be able to engage much wider than that, and I think, I don't know where all these people live, but I assume that maybe because it's college, they've probably all spread back out over the country, and there's she doesn't necessarily know what their circumstances are, and there may be very valid reasons that they're just not able to engage at this point in time. Because
it's hard to make friends as an adult, so it's hard to make it's harder to make friends in a pandemic. So
and that's
Is it easier to make friends in the pandemic?
online maybe.
Well, yeah, like I've reached back out to people that I hadn't talked to before, like for years. And so Jess, who was in the chat, who's actually finally gone to bed, I hadn't talked to her for like 7 years, like at the beginning of the pandemic, and then I
Wow.
saw that she was streaming. So then I decided, oh, I'm gonna go watch her stream. We then caught back up, and now like me and all my other friends, I'm like reconnecting with loads of people that I hadn't talked to for years, and playing, board games and stuff online. Like, so actually for me, the pandemic has been amazing because everybody else is stuck inside. Like, I don't like to go out, so because everybody's now stuck inside, it means that they're more accessible for me, really, because everybody's now online. It's become a very common thing for everybody to just have Facebook Messenger calls, or Zoom meetings, and everybody's now got loads more time. Well, not anymore, because loads of you are still having to go back to work. But like, for me, it's been the most sociable time I've had in like years.
Yeah, so
I mean, I meet a lot of people online, obviously, but like I'm like an in-person person still. Like, maybe like I'm like, how some, not the person that's like, let's talk on the phone. Like, some people always want to talk on the phone, like, which is very like, I feel like I'm still nervous to talk on the phone. Like, I'm just used to texting. But I'm also a person that like, I really like to meet people in person. Like, I have so many friends that I did meet online initially, but I'm always like, let's meet up like at a con or whatever. And then I think that like becoming real life friends strengthens that bond. So I think that's what kind of makes whole quarantine, well, we're not totally quarantined anymore, we're like semi-quarantine, really difficult, because I think you can't always, at least for me, I don't know, it's other people, I think other people really enjoy, like Jane, you seem to like love those online friendships. To me, like, I want to meet people in real life too. So I guess like maybe I'm a little bit old school that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a piece around this current situation negating geographical distance to some extent, people kind of connecting more so. But I think that's why we don't always keep up with those friendships when we are out and about, because most of the time, a lot of us are social animals. We want some people who we can go to coffee with, drinks with, to a concert with, and they tend to be the people that obviously are a bit more local. So those friendships that are more geographically difficult, do take second base. But obviously at the moment, everyone's on a level playing field. So it's nice that, for example, I think a few of us have kind of rediscovered friendships that perhaps were once dead. And I think the piece for her then is to maybe have a look at that. You know, are there other people maybe that she knows and can connect with back on Facebook? I mean, she said her old school friends couldn't handle the heater growing up and things, but maybe this is the time. This is a good time to say, hey, how you doing? You know, maybe try and rekindle some of those friendships now that you're in a different place. Everyone's a bit older. You've just come out of university. You know, what are you up to next? And a lot of those people will be more local, and then that might, because I mean, high school will be local, and they sorry, go on, Meg. Sorry?
I just want to hang out with people other than my kids. That's all I've been hanging out with since March in my house. So I'd like to see some adults in real life.
Soon, I'm sure. I mean, the other thing I think is hobbies for her. Like, there's loads of groups, a lot of virtual groups currently set up for people with sort of similar interests. And again, you know, once we're out of this crazy, hopefully, you know, if she's found some of those groups locally, that might then translate into meetups with people that share common interests, and that's always a good place to at least start making new friends.
And I'm a really direct person. If it didn't work out, if you feel like she feels like it's fishy, like maybe she did something wrong, I would honestly just ask, like, you know, like if I feel like things are funny sometimes between me and my best friend, I always ask her, like, did I do something wrong, or are you just really busy? You know, like, what's going on? Like, I just check in with her. And I think that, like, as adults, that's totally okay to do. You know, and don't be like necessarily confrontational. Say, you know, like, you know, I really valued our friendship. You know, it hasn't worked out. I'm just wondering if there's anything I did wrong, or, you know, and give people the opportunity to give you feedback and see if there is something, you know, like, be introspective and self-aware and try and see if there's something you can do differently if you do want to try and salvage those friendships.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do think that making friends as an adult is harder. I like Jane, I think, struggle to kind of find places where I sort of fit in. And even now, you know, I come across, I've been through a very similar experience recently about some friends who I thought were good friends and have sort of pretty much kind of sidelined me over the past couple of months. And it's just an interesting experience to go through when it feels more one-sided, for example. But then, you know, it's about knowing your own value as well. So I would say to her is it might be you, but it may also be them, and they're just shitty. And she deserves better. Because it may be, to her point, that they all just used each other. And it may be, you know, I think she kind of almost implies like the three of them have all kind of left on their own and left her to one side, but it may just be that none of them are talking to each other because they were all just, you know, it was just a shallow friendship of convenience at the time. And sometimes that does happen. I mean, I'm not very close friends with many of the people of my university course, much closer to a lot of people I met through some of the societies there, such as the student radio. So that's where I do think hobbies and things are quite key if she wants to kind of take it forwards and start looking at other ways to make friendships. So, anything else? PB says, started streaming because I had no friends in the new city. Okay. Not promoting, advising that friends plus had. Oh. I mean, yeah, things like streaming obviously is a great way to make friends, especially at the moment. You know, we've talked about the sort of virtual friends, and again, you know, geographic divide these days. But you know, personally, I do always think as well that friendships that then translate into meeting someone in person probably are stronger for it. And I think Meg obviously is of that sort of similar opinion. But I would still say that I know people who have incredibly strong friendships who have never met and yet would be, you know, considered almost family. So I think it's how long you invest in that friendship, and if it lasts the test of time, then it's probably a keeper.
I will come to your house, Nessa.
Yeah, well, yeah, aren't we already planning some kind of cross-Atlantic? Yeah.
I'm coming,
Nessa,
guys.
I will. I just like the way it's like, Nessa, I will come to your house. It's like aggressive.
It's like,
I'm coming.
Well, when they say you don't have to quarantine for 2 weeks anymore, otherwise it could be a bit of an extended stay, Meg.
hey, stand on your lawn for 2 weeks.
Yeah, because you're not allowed in. We're only allowed
Stereo.
to bubble with one other local household at the moment. God. I don't know how anyone navigates this. I honestly don't. I mean, I'm not, poor girls, not no friends with this kind of situation. It's just impossible. 14-day isolation would be worth it. Oh.
Oh.
I should just, I'll just have everyone round. We can all get COVID together. It'd be fine.
Yeah, you'll nurse us back to health, Nessa. It's fine. Or Dom will. Dom can take care of us all.
God, he
feed
made
us
the
chicken.
honestly. I don't doubt that he made the best lasagna this evening. So we'll be well fed at least.
See, is it kind of like a measles? Is it like chickenpox party? You know, like parents, like one kid has chickenpox. Get all the kids around now. Like one of you gets COVID, and you're like, yes, let's all get it now. Why not?
Well, I think that's
My mom did that. My mom sent me 6 times to 6 chickenpox parties, and I could not get chickenpox. And as an adult, I've still never had it. She would just get so pissed because I wouldn't get chickenpox. And finally, when I was like 8 years old, she gave up.
Oh God. Maybe you're just immune. It's like you probably had it and you just never developed the symptoms for it or something.
Right.
It's just everything's different. I mean, my 4-year-old had he had such a mild version you wouldn't even know he'd had it. He had a few spots, and then of course we honestly was like running around the house like the thing, and it was like you've got to stay in for like a week, and it was literally like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with this stir crazy child for a week? It's like, yeah, great fun. So any last words? What's one piece of advice that we would leave her with then?
Ditch him.
Find some new ones.
A dog and join a dog walking group. Like that's how I met people, is like through my dogs or my children. Like I joined a dog walking group, and that's how I met people when I moved to Maryland. Like I have children, so now I join like mom groups. So you need to like find something, utilize that to make your friends, and you have that in common. So
yeah, and I think once she starts working as well, for me it's like, okay, focus on finding some employment now you've left university, because you will also make friends at work and things. Well, it depends on where, but I met some really great people at my workplace, and we would go out together and stuff like that. So and we still WhatsApp and things like that. So yes, work and hobbies. Okay, moving on. Next one. I'm a 19-year-old male, but I'm not ready for sex. Is there something wrong with me? It's hard to explain. I do like masturbating and all that stuff, but I don't want to have actual sex yet. I feel like I'm not ready for it. I definitely like girls and would love to have a girlfriend, but I find sex to be pretty overrated even though I've never had it. It's something I want to do with a girlfriend or something, but I'm not actively after it like most of the other boys my age. Am I weird?
No.
Anyone?
we're gonna go to
Go on,
me.
Jane.
I feel
No,
like
go on,
that's a
Jane.
weird, like,
Jane, no, go on.
question for Meg.
No, my thing is just no. Like, everybody's different. I think, don't know how personal I can get. I dated a guy that wasn't interested until he essentially said sounds like he was looking for the right person, and it was less about the wanting sex. It was, So I think it is normal. I think just the people that are very hyped up on wanting to have sex are very much more vocal about it. And everybody else just is like, oh yeah, I also really, really want to do the sex too. Like, I just think it's when they find the right people, potentially. So that's, it might be that this person's actually asexual and has no, sexual feelings to do any
asexual.
of that stuff.
Or even demisexual, like for me, like I have to really like the type of person, like I have to really like a person. Like that's abnormal. I have to feel something for a person. I'm not like I'm not judging anyone else that doesn't feel that way. That's just for me personally how it's always been. And And so it looks like he wants the companionship first, and then perhaps, if he's not asexual, the sexual feelings will follow. And that's how I am. Like, I feel like a man could be like the best looking person you've ever seen, but if I don't have personality, I'm like literally repulsed by them. Like, I'm totally like a personality attraction person, and then like if they also happen to be hot, then it's like I won the lottery. So he could be a little bit like me, and I think like I'm 19, you're definitely still figuring out, I also always question when people are like, I'm definitely interested in girls. Like when people feel the need, like put it out there that their heterosexuality, always makes me wonder, like, are you really sure? Because it's like, are you overcorrecting? Like, I don't know if it's his case, but like 19, you might still just not know. Like, that's okay. I think he just is in an exploratory phase, like maybe try to date a girl. He's interested in having the girlfriend, the companionship, so go on some dates. And if he meets someone that he clicks with, then he might feel the need to like feel that sexual attraction that he's not felt yet. And maybe he doesn't, and maybe he's asexual. So
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was maybe more what he meant. He may have been told maybe by friends previously that he's asexual or something like that. And I think that may be where that I definitely like girls thing has come from. And I sort of was wondering whether that was, because people might have queried his sexuality in the past. Or like his friends, may have joked about it. And so he's sort of a bit insecure about that, which is a bit unfair at the age that he is, for example.
So how does he know sex is overrated if he's never had it? He's like, I feel sex is overrated, though I've never had it. Like, how do you know? That's like me being like, jumping out of a plane is overrated, but I've never done it. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, he says, I do like masturbating, and maybe it's just he likes it, but it's not like it doesn't blow his mind kind of thing. It's a physical release rather than, maybe he's equating then that sex would be similar to masturbation, for example, and it's like, yeah. But I think the sex being overrated, I imagine he's watched a lot of porn or whatever, and he's kind of gone, I'm not really into this. I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but that's obviously when people are talking about sex, what one might be exposed to when you're kind of exploring and things in that kind of age, and it obviously maybe doesn't appeal to him. But I think you've probably hit the nail on the head, Meg. It may be that he needs to find the right person, and he's either more demi or sapiosexual or something. And once he has that connection with somebody, those sexual feelings will start to develop much stronger.
And if it were a woman saying that interested in sex, like find the right person, no one would bat an eyelash. I feel it makes me sad because I feel like he's a man, and everyone's like assumes he should be immediately like wanting to hump everything that moves. He feels like he has to defend it. Like if it was a 19-year-old woman who was saying like waiting for the right one, people would be more likely to be like, oh, okay, like that's normal. But I feel like based on what he said, sounds like he's had his sexuality maybe questioned because of his stance on it, which is sad. Because I feel like if it were a woman saying that, people wouldn't be like, well, are you gay? Like, that would be the first question. They'd be like, oh, that's really sweet of you to want to wait,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right as well. I think there's a lot more pressure probably on, well, I don't know. I think, as you say, for some reason it's more acceptable maybe for a girl to say they're waiting, but for a boy it's kind of almost like a rite of passage. It's, within your friendship circles and things, it's like people will be like, what? And so he's
I'd say
it's
definitely expected when they're teenagers that all the lads are talking about how much they want to do it, and definitely seeking somebody to do it with. Like, it's not as accepted for girls. Like, it's that whole thing of like it's amazing if a guy has loads of partners, but if a girl has loads of partners, like, it's seen as a bad thing. It's just tags onto that, like.
I think we're moving past that, but
yeah.
I think it's now more accepted that girls can have loads of partners, and that's still okay. But yeah, I think there's still some hang-ups around that. But what do we say? PB says, when it started out that way, eventually had it, didn't like it, fine, having a roommate, love, sequestration. There's plenty of people out there, you know, who are in those kinds of situations and they choose then to have a nesting partner, but it's not necessarily then a sexual relationship. He's at a phase where he's got the choice to experiment, see what he likes, what he doesn't like, and then, you know, make decisions from there. What's nice is that we live in, you know, in a society now where you have all of those options, and you will more likely find somebody who is, you know, shares your sexuality. So whatever way he comes down. Okay, so a last kind of word of advice then for we've decided he's definitely not weird, but is there one last sort of bit of advice we might give him? Jane, Meg?
I don't know.
I would just say it's okay. Like, you don't have to have it figured out at 19.
Yeah.
Just, you know, just kind of explore things, do what you're comfortable with, and like take your time.
Yeah, same.
Teen is young.
What she said.
What she said.
Yeah, what she said,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think the biggest piece is don't let anyone pressure you or make you feel insecure either about your sexuality. You know, there's so many different sexualities. Maybe go and do a bit of research, have a look. Some of them might feel a bit more comfortable and they might feel that they fit a bit better. Don't let people tell you about your sexuality. Yes, PB, that's exactly it. So don't let people pressure you into being one thing or another. Don't let them say this is how it should be, because it's not. There's so many different ways of being, and you just need to find the one that works for you. That's what I would leave you with. Okay, so we're going to finish on a bit of an interesting one. This one is from our good friend Meg here. She's put this one forwards this week. It's perhaps a little bit more of a kind of make you smile kind of one. I'm 26 male, destroyed my girlfriend 24F plants in a fit of rage, and now I think she may leave me. I've been in a relationship with a girl in my dreams for about 7 years. She's the light of my life. We met in college. It was love at first sight. She's the most loving, goal-minded, smart, creative, gentle person I know. Our relationship has always been pretty peaceful. Even when we fight, it's not so much fighting as it is just talking out our frustrations and maybe some tears shed. Had a couple of rough months, got laid off, rejected from my top choice at grad school, had to dump a huge chunk of our savings into a new car. Looking back, I think all of this contributed to what happened that night. I truly feel like I blacked out. I've never had an episode like this in my life. Last week, we were arguing about some financial decisions that we were trying to come to agreement on. Like she always does when an argument has drained her for the day, she sighed, rubbed her eyes, stood up and kissed my cheek and said she was making some tea. We have tea every night. And asked if I wanted some before bed. I always know this is a sign that she can't productively contribute to the argument anymore right now. She needs to refocus and recharge. Oh, God, Meg, you call that dog? That's
Yeah.
look, I was like, oh... For whatever reason, I didn't accept it that night. I asked her to sit down so we could continue. I was sick of arguing and wanted to push through till it was over. She responded that she would not be contributing for the rest of the night and that I'm welcome to come to bed whenever I'm ready. She put my tea on the table in front of me and took us to the bedroom. Then when she walked out of the kitchen, I called her for 3 more times, insisting that she come back to talk, and she ignored me. Something in me snapped. Instead of having tea, I started drinking. I drink maybe once or twice a year. All we had in the house was a bottle of nasty brandy. She has this room in the back of our house that's mostly windows. She's put a lot of time and money into it. It's her plant room. She put in new floors and custom shelves that she built herself to hold the plants. My girlfriend's plant room has always been her special place. Her career is pretty demanding. She does a lot of speaking with important people. At the end of the day, she's often looking to escape somewhere. She has a bookshelf to keep her favourite books out there and all these cool-looking plants. One of them got passed down from like her great-grandmother or something, and a lot of them are from other countries. I think she names them. Maybe it's the actual names of the plants, I don't know. Sometimes I go out there too to spend time with her, and she would always be wiping the leaves and gushing about the way the light is coming in or how excited she was about the new plant she was expecting in the mail. Her plant room's probably her most favourite space. The walls literally look green because she has so many. I couldn't really keep up. Sometimes I'd open the blinds in the house to the room just to watch her in her rocking chair reading around the plants. Anyway, so I snapped. I literally do not know. I backed my truck up and put every plant in the room in the back, and I took them to the pond a few blocks away from the house and dumped them in. Still drinking. Amazing I didn't crash my truck. I passed out on the couch. Next morning I got up not remembering a lot until I saw her through the open blind sitting in the empty room. I immediately ran out there. My stomach hurt thinking about what I'd done. Her eyes were so wide and full of tears. She kept taking these shaky breaths and looking around like she was seeing it for the first time over and over. I told her I'm sorry. She asked what happened. I told her. She asked about her great-grandma's ivy as well. I said yes. She did this little sob thing. It was really quiet. She's never been a loud crier. Ever since then, my best friend is gone. She goes to work, comes home and sits in the empty room and looks out the window. She looks sad every night. I miss her. I miss her making tea for us before bed. I just miss all the little ways she made my life complete. She was the most full of life I've ever seen in a person. Sometimes she'd just grab me as I'm walking by and get up on her tiptoes and kiss me like it was the first time. My actions are killing me. She drifts past me like a ghost when she's near. She doesn't kiss me, doesn't return my affection. I want to start rebuilding her room, but I don't even know where to start. Please help me. If there's any room for me to get my best friend and hopefully future wife back, I need help. So Meg, you put this one forward, so I think you should start.
So first of all, I'll say like Amy sent this to me because she read it and she was so distraught over it. And then I read it and I was very distraught over it. So I just like my mind is just blown about like I don't care. Like I've been very drunk. I've never been very drunk and like done something extremely calculated and malicious. It wasn't just like he knocked the plants in the ground and like smashed them. He like backed his truck up, loaded all the plants out of the truck, went to a lake, and then dumped them into the thing. Like this, to me, that's like a not a crime of passion. Like when you're like, what is the homicide? Is it like the guy just went crazy and killed him, or was it like premeditated? I think this man had thought about doing that to those plants because that was very like he had a plan. I do feel bad for him because it seems like he genuinely regrets it. Like it seems like he just had like temporary insanity. But I feel worse for the woman because they seem like they were her children. And he said like her grandmother's Ivy. You can't rebuild that. And the crime did not equal the action. Like all she did was like I think very mature. Be like, look, I'm not at a point that can continue this discussion. And that's exactly what you should do in those situations. Like sometimes we just reach a point like mentally that we can't continue like going round and round and round. She made him a cup of tea like a saint and is like kisses him goodnight. And then he goes off in a rage and murders her plans. Like to me, like I understand he had like built up stress, I guess, but I just don't think you come back from that, bro. Like I think that she seems like a sweet person because she hasn't even lost her shit at him. She's just like silently cried and then been quiet. Like
Yeah, I'm amazed she's not left yet, I have to say. Jane, your thoughts?
I think that essentially he must have already thought about like previously disliking the plants to have previously thought about how would I get rid of them, and then like I don't know, like the trust there is completely gone. Like I I I don't know, and it what she did is mature. Like in an argument, because she probably doesn't want to go to malicious, because in immature relationships they go past the point where they start insulting them that they don't know where to stop. So she's gone the really mature route of just, right, I'm gonna stop now, give it some time so that I don't like just insult him. um and then he essentially premeditated murder on the plants. Like the reason that she hasn't actually blown up at him is because she has decided inside, once all the world has finished with its shit, she's going to divorce him. She's already internally decided what she's going to do, and actually because she's mature enough, she's not gone, I'm going to have a go at him first about it. And because also she doesn't want to have that awkward I mean, so she doesn't want to have that awkward huge argument, and then they then have to live together after she's completely ripped into him. So
Sounds like
he's
a
lost
wonderful
her.
person, and I am not a fan of him. Like
No.
she has done everything right at every turn. He just like I feel the way he described how he would come home and see her reading in the room, it sounded like jealousy. Like he was jealous of the plants. And so when she didn't behave the way he wanted her to behave, he was like, how can I hurt her the most? And to me, that is not someone I would want to be in a relationship with. Someone that would like, there's not enough alcohol in the world to get me to do that to somebody. Like, not even like, let alone my significant other, let alone just like a person, like, where I would really try and gut them like that in that way. And I think the reason that she hasn't lost it on him is because she's in mourning over her plants. Like, I don't even think it's about that she's like waiting to spring the divorce thing. I think she's like brokenhearted over the plants and is not even like worrying about what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The reason she's quiet is she's in mourning, and she can't just deal. You know, that's all encompassing. She can't deal with him right now. It's like that's for the later stage. That's for yeah. I mean, I think they're girlfriend boyfriend. I don't think they're married. So kind of
And he says, hopefully she's my future wife. No.
no.
No, she's
Yeah.
not.
No. You that ship has sailed, my friend.
Yeah. No, I think
Yeah.
there is a bit of jealousy, and he's obviously they've been together 7 years, and the bit that got me was like one of them got passed down from like her great grandma or someone, and a lot of them are from other countries. I think she names them, or maybe that's the actual names of the plants. I don't know. So he's never actually taken in the whole 7 years that much interest in these plants. That I think there is a lot of resentment there. And as you say, there was definitely something calculated. This is something that he did not understand, did not want to understand, did not care for himself, in terms of understanding why she likes it or, what it means to her. He wasn't bothered about what it means to her. He never bothered to learn it.
It's kind of comparable with partners that don't understand people playing video games and then just going and stomping on their games consoles or smashing up their
Like deleting their
computer.
whole Minecraft. Like
That
the
was
whole
what I
world.
was going to
Yeah,
go there,
yeah.
Meg, because we had I was reading in a
You do that to me,
It
I
made
will
me so
murder you.
angry. It made me so angry. There was this. I said you can't do that. It was an am I the arsehole that Dom and I read the other week, and this parent. Like, I can't remember what the son had done, but it was something fairly minor. Like, he'd refused to turn, like, the games console off or something when she'd asked him or whatever, and she deleted his entire Minecraft, world, and I was just like, you just don't do that.
Yeah.
That is, like, disproportional, and it made me so angry. I was like, you, as a parent, you've just, like, the kid had worked in it for years, I think. And I was like,
Well, and that's the thing is it's comparable because it's a thing that the person hasn't taken time to understand. Like the parents
exactly.
that delete it, they don't realize that potentially that child has been putting so many hours and all this sort of, they don't understand the actual emotional connection that they have to it. Same with like games consoles and those girlfriends that go crazy and decide to chuck destroy consoles because they just see that they're not getting attention because of this thing. So it's the same kind of thing. Like
Right.
he's
This is
not
such a
getting the
pet peeve of
attention he
mine.
wants.
Like people who hate things just because they don't understand them. Like
Yeah.
in life, that really bothers me. Like I'm terrible at video games. Like I am the worst. But I still totally respect people that play video games. They invest that time. They're difficult. The like everything that goes into them. So just because I am personally awful at them does not mean that I be like, this is garbage. I'm gonna just destroy your Xbox or whatever. Like I think that it's great when people have hobbies they're passionate about, and I don't understand people that like hate on it so hard. And I feel like that's what he did with these plants. Like, yes, you don't understand the plants, but people that have plants are like really passionate about them, and like,
Yep.
it is a big deal to them. And like the plants are obviously like they're a living thing, and people feel like honestly attached to them. Just like any other, if you're a collector of something, you might understand. Like maybe you collect comic books or, action figures, and it might seem to other people they don't get it, but why would you why would you behest anyone for having something that they're passionate about and that they love, let alone destroy that thing?
No, I'm with you. Okay, so last bits of advice. I mean, personally, I think PB probably, if there was some kind of salvaging, PB in chat's probably done the best that he might be able to do. But I'm still not sure she'd forgive him. But that's probably about as close to trying to make up for it as he can get. But I don't know.
I think
Last
she'll look at him
words.
forever and think plant murderer. Like, I think that if they stay together,
Yeah.
it's changed. It's not, you can't go back from, you can't come back from that, but
Jane?
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, he's completely lost the trust, and that trust will never be able to be regained unless they essentially worked at it extremely hard, because he's only realized like what he's lost once he's been a knobhead. Um, like, and I think, yeah, that trust won't return unless he replaces everything, attempts to recover as much as he can, like really puts himself out and shows that he's like, like if he comes back and he's like head to toe covered in mud and he's like, the only thing I could find, I'm so sorry, was this one plant, like
Go pond
effort.
diving.
But yeah, like, and that would show that his commitment to the relationship, but that's the thing they have to work on. It's,
Yeah. No, I'm
rebuilding that trust is the main thing.
in my mind, I'm just like envisioning the poison ivy situation. Like she comes at him, like she's morphed into this like poison ivy creature and like murders him with her ivy. Like this is what I'm envisioning in my mind.
That's why she's quiet. She's busy
Right.
inventing. Well, thank you for your input on those this evening. This afternoon. Okay. And we have one last section. So I think we've kind of going to grill our poor guest in our quick fire Ask War section. So this is the section where you can get to know us a bit better. So last week, if you were there, Meg was on the receiving end. You can have a look at the VOD because it was quite fun. This week, because we've got a guest, Jane, our lovely Jane, she is going to be on the receiving end of my very high-tech solution
of paper.
And the lovely Meg is going to time keep, and we're going to go through as many of these as we can in 1 minute. So let's see. We're going to shuffle them up a little bit. Here we go. Ready? You ready, Meg?
Yep, I'm ready.
Say go.
Yeah. Ready, set, go.
Honesty or protect feelings?
Honesty.
Giving or receiving?
Giving.
Lingerie or nude?
Nude.
Money or fame?
Money.
Telepathy or telekinesis?
Telepathy.
Vampires or angels?
Vampires.
Toast or cereal?
Toast.
Head massage or foot massage?
Head.
Painting or photo?
Painting.
Pizza or pasta? Pizza or pasta? Yeah. Pasta. Chicken nuggets or fish fingers?
Oh, chicken nuggets.
Cooking or washing up?
Cooking.
Cat or dog? Last one stuck in there. You got the dog. Chat, if you've got any as well, that's what I should have said actually. If you've got anything you'd like to ask Jane, then quickly pop it into chat and we will pull it up if it's not too risque.
I was like, what?
But that gives us a little, because you've got a gorgeous doggy. He keeps appearing in the background.
Oh, yeah, he's down here. I don't know how much you can see of him on the camera. But he's currently annoyed because it's after midnight and he wants to go to sleep.
Oh, is that his bedroom? Oh, that's a bit unfair.
He's got a bed in both mine and my other half's rooms. So, but he prefers this bed.
Oh.
But he'll just start grumbling because it's gone past his bedtime and he's a grumpy old man. So.
Oh. Oh, so to answer the question, Jargos just put in, what is happening? So we were just getting to know Jane a bit better with our little quick fire either or kind of stuff, which is the last section. So I'm conscious of time, and I'm thankful for everybody who's attended this evening, and my lovely co-hosts this evening, Jane and Meg. We'll do a quick round. Where can we find you? Social media?
Twitch. I can't even remember what my account is actually called. It's female_gamer Twitch. When, if I ever stream again. I also have a YouTube, which I haven't posted on for ages either. That's Jane Female Gamer. I'm so creative.
I have tagged you on Twitter today as well, so if you're not using that as
You expect I do have Twitter. I think I've posted on it like 4 times. Probably not even that much.
So basically, find Jane on Discord. That's
Discord.
the solution.
I'm in the Discord. Yeah, and probably in the chats of most of these guys' streams as well.
There we go. What about you, Meg?
I'm on Twitter as greeneyed_Meg. I'm also in the Discord a lot as Meg K Loop. I think I'm in the Discord. So
Are you still in the loop?
So I am in the loop. Okay.
I don't think so.
I'm something. I need to streamline my names.
Yeah. And myself, I'm on Twitter at Nessie. So not Nessa, unfortunately. Nessie_AC. No, it's an IE, not a Y. And you can usually find me hanging out also in Talking Boxes chat on most things, as long as they're not too late for us here in the UK. So unfortunately, it's not everything, but I try and do it as much as I can. And Discord. What I would say, though, that if you are interested in all of the up-and-coming indie games, in about half an hour, our good friend Sippy Cup Games is going to be here, and he is going to be playing through lots of different games in his show One More Run, where he takes a load of the new releases and plays about 30 minutes to an hour of each of them. So it's very quick fire, and then he does a bit of a review on each of those games. So if you want to know what you might want to be playing in the sort of next couple of months, that is where you can come and have a look at some previews of the games that are coming up. But otherwise, I will wish you a good night. We will be back in another couple of weeks. Hopefully Skelly will be back with us, and we will hopefully see you then. The VOD will go up, so anybody who isn't here, obviously, which is irrelevant because everybody's here is listening to this now. But if anyone's on the VOD, thank you for watching. Anyone who's here, have a lovely night, have a good evening and rest of the day. And we'll see you soon. Bye.